Two men stood in the snow, looking down at a woman tied to a fence post. They stood with the casual patience of predators who know their prey isn't going anywhere. It was 4 degrees above zero. The woman had no coat. Beside her, a 3-year-old girl was screaming, her bare feet turning red in the ice. Then the silence of the tree line broke. Samuel Cole didn't shout. He didn't ride in with guns blazing. He simply said, "Leave her alone." The men turned. They saw a man already off his horse, knife in hand, possessing a stillness that was far more terrifying than rage. They stepped back, not because they wanted to, but because their bodies recognized a threat before their minds did. Sam cut the ropes. He lifted the woman with one arm, scooped up the child with the other, and walked away without looking back. If you are watching this, stop what you are doing. I want you to drop your location in the comments. Let's see how far this story travels. And do not click away, because what this man did next and what the woman he saved did in a courtroom 3 days later will change the way you look at justice forever. Hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and let's get into the story. The thing about the high country in January is that it doesn't negotiate. The cold is absolute. It finds the gaps in your clothes and the cracks in your resolve. Samuel Cole knew this. He had spent 6 years living alone in a cabin that was more fortress than home. A man who had decided that the world wasn't worth the effort of conversation. He was a man who noticed things. He noticed the tracks first. 2 horses, heavy riders, moving with purpose toward his north fence line. He noticed the silence next. The birds had stopped singing. When he crested the ridge, he saw them. 2 men, collars turned up against the wind, smoking cigarettes while a woman froze to death 5 feet away. The woman was on her knees, her wrists bound behind her to the cedar post. Her hair was soaked, freezing against her cheek. The little girl, copper-haired and terrified, had stopped screaming and started shivering a violent, rattling shake that Sam knew was the precursor to the end. Sam didn't think. Thinking is for men who have options. He dismounted. "Leave her alone." The taller of the 2 men, a hired hand named Roy Finch, turned around. He had a face that had forgotten how to smile without malice. "This ain't your business, friend," Finch said. "You're on private land." "On my land," Sam said, his voice flat, "and that makes it my business." "She belongs to the Briggs family," Finch sneered. "We're just disciplining her." Sam didn't break stride. He walked right up to them. He didn't reach for the rifle on his saddle. He didn't need to. There is a specific look in the eyes of a man who has spent years in the deep mines. A look that says he has seen the dark and made peace with it. Sam had that look. "Walk away," Sam said. "Or don't." The 2 men exchanged a glance. They were bullies, and like all bullies, they were cowards when the math didn't favor them. They saw the knife. They saw the eyes. They walked to their horses. "Wade Briggs isn't going to like this," Finch called out as he mounted up. "You're making an enemy you can't afford." "Go tell him," Sam said, kneeling in the snow. He cut the ropes. The woman, Martha, slumped forward. She was light, dangerously light, the kind of weightlessness that comes from months of fear and rationing. "I've got you," Sam said. "Lily," she whispered. Her lips were blue. "Lily, I've got her too." The little girl looked at Sam. She didn't cry. She just held up her arms. He took them both. He put the child inside his coat, against the warmth of his chest, and laid Martha across his saddle. The ride back to the cabin was a mile of silence, broken only by the wind and the heavy breathing of the horse. Sam Cole didn't know it yet, but he had just started a war. The cabin was warm, but the atmosphere was ice cold. Sam built the fire up until the iron stove ticked with heat. He wrapped the little girl, Lily, in wool socks that went up to her thighs. She sat on the hearth rug, holding a wooden button shed found on the floor, watching him with eyes that were too old for a toddler. Martha woke up an hour later. She tried to sit up and immediately fell back, clutching her wrists. The rope burns were deep, angry red rings that would scar. "You're safe," Sam said from the corner. He was cleaning his rifle. "How long?" Martha asked. Her voice was like dry leaves. 2 hours. You were out cold. She looked at Lily sleeping by the fire now. Then she looked at Sam. You should have kept writing. Wade Briggs. He doesn't leave loose ends. Who is Wade Briggs? Sam asked, though he knew the name. Everyone knew the name. My stepson, Martha said. Technically. My late husband's son from before. He runs the estate now. He did this. He ordered it, she said. He wants the house. He wants the land. But mostly he wants the timber rights on the East Ridge. My husband, Harold, left them to Lily. As long as I have custody of Lily, Wade can't touch the timber. If him gone, or if him declared incompetent, Sam stopped cleaning the rifle. He looked at the woman. So he ties you to a post in a blizzard to prove you're unfit. No, Martha said, her eyes hard. He ties me to a post so he'll die. And then he tells the sheriff I wandered off in a fit of grief. He tells the town I was unstable. He takes Lily, he takes the timber, and he cuts down every tree before she turns 18. It was a cold, mathematical cruelty. It wasn't a crime of passion, it was a business transaction. He took your coat, Sam said. He remembered the taller man, Finch, wearing a woman's heavy wool coat. He wanted it to be quick, she said. That night the snow stopped, but the darkness deepened. Around 2:00 a.m., Lily woke up screaming. Not a nightmare scream, a warning scream. Sam was at the window in a heartbeat. Through the slats of the shutters he saw them. 2 silhouettes on horseback at the tree line, just sitting there, watching. It was a psychological siege. They wanted Martha to know she wasn't hidden. They wanted Sam to know he was marked. They won't attack tonight, Martha said from the darkness behind him. She was holding Lily. Wade is cautious. He's building a story first. By morning, hell have told the sheriff I kidnapped Lily and ran away to your cabin. Let him tell the story, Sam said. The sheriff can come look at your wrists. Sheriff Calhoun has been on the Briggs payroll for 20 years, Martha said. He wants sea rope burns. Hell see self-inflicted wounds from a hysterical woman. Sam turned to her. The firelight caught the side of his face. Then we don't rely on the sheriff. Who do we rely on? There's a woman in town. Agnes Porter. Runs the general store. Martha nodded slowly. Agnes hates Wade. But she's just one woman. She's a woman who knows where the bodies are buried, Sam said. We go to her. The next morning, the confrontation began. Sam rode into town alone first to get Agnes. He found her behind the counter of her store, a woman made of iron and ledger paper. When Sam told her what had happened, she didn't gasp. She didn't ask if he was sure. She simply took off her reading glasses and locked the front door. Wade filed a petition this morning, Agnes said, her voice clipped. Guardianship of Lily. He claims you abducted Martha. He claims Martha is mentally unwell. She has rope burns on her wrists, Sam said. Wade says she did it to herself. Sam felt a heat rising in his chest that had nothing to do with the stove. We need a lawyer. I've already telegraphed Thomas Garrett in Denver, Agnes said. He's the only man in the territory Wade can't buy. He'll be here in 2 days. Until then, we just have to hold the line. But holding the line is harder than it sounds when the law comes knocking. They were back at the cabin by noon. Sheriff Calhoun arrived at 1:00 p.m. He brought 2 deputies and Wade Briggs himself. Wade was a handsome man, in that slippery, polished way that makes you check your pockets after shaking hands. He sat on his horse with a look of practiced concern. Martha, Wade called out. Thank God you're safe. We've been so worried. Martha stepped out onto the porch. She was wearing a dress of Sam's late mother that he had dug out of a trunk. She looked small, but she stood tall. Sam stood in the doorway, his rifle leaning casually against the frame. Not going back, Wade, Martha said. Sheriff Calhoun stepped forward. Now, Mrs. Briggs, nobody is saying you have to go back to the house right this second. But we need to take the child. Temporary custody until we get your situation sorted out. My situation? Martha asked. Your mental state, Calhoun said, tapping a piece of paper in his pocket. Wade here says you've been having episodes. Running off into the snow. Martha walked down the stairs. She walked straight up to the sheriff. She held out her arms and pulled back her sleeves. The raw, purple bruising was horrific against her pale skin. "Look at them," she commanded. Calhoun blinked. He looked away. "Self-harm is a serious symptom, Mom." "I didn't do this," Martha said, her voice ringing off the trees. "Your deputy's brother, Roy Finch, did this. He tied me to a fence post. He took my coat. He left my daughter to freeze." She pointed at Wade. "On his orders." Wade sighed, a sound of tragic patience. "See, Sheriff? The paranoia. It's getting worse." Sam stepped off the porch. The snow crunched under his boots. The sound was loud enough to make the deputies put their hands on their holsters. "Get off my land," Sam said. "You're harboring a fugitive," Wade snapped, the mask slipping for a split second. "I'm harboring a witness," Sam said. "And unless you have a warrant signed by a judge that isn't in your pocket, Calhoun, you're trespassing." Calhoun looked at the rifle. He looked at Sam's eyes. He looked at the rope burns on Martha's wrists. He was corrupt, but he wasn't stupid. He knew that pushing Sam Cole was a good way to end up in a pine box. "Well, let the judge decide," Calhoun said. "Hearing is set for Friday. Be there or we come back with a posse." They rode away. But as they left, Wade turned in his saddle. He looked at Martha and he smiled. It was a smile that promised violence. The next 48 hours were a siege. Sam didn't sleep. He sat by the window watching the tree line. Martha wrote. She sat at the kitchen table with a stack of paper Agnes had brought, writing down everything. Every threat, every bruise, every date, every time Harold or Wade had mentioned the timber rights. "He keeps records," Martha told Sam. Harold did. Wade does. They document everything to make it look legal. "I need to have my own record." "You think a piece of paper will stop a bullet?" Sam asked gently. "I think a piece of paper is the only thing that stops a man like Wade," she replied. "He thinks he owns the truth because he owns the sheriff. I have to prove the truth exists outside of his payroll." On the second night, the tactic changed. Sam caught movement near the barn. He didn't shoot, he moved. He slipped out the back door, circling wide through the snow, moving like a ghost. He came up behind the figure fumbling with a lantern by the barn door. It wasn't Roy Finch. It was the other one, the quiet one, Decker. Sam pressed the cold barrel of his rifle against the back of Decker's neck. "Give me one reason." Decker froze. "Don't shoot. I'm just leaving a message." "What message?" Decker handed over a folded piece of paper. Sam opened it. It was a note to Martha. It said simply, "Asterisk, if you come to court, we will tell the judge about the affair. We will take the girl, leave town, and she stays with you." "Asterisk, it's a lie," Sam said. "Doesn't matter," Decker whispered. "Wade has witnesses lined up. He's got the doctor paid off to say she's crazy. He's got the sheriff. You can't win in that room, mister." Sam lowered the rifle. He turned Decker around. "You were there. You tied the knot. I was following orders." "You saw the kid," Sam said. "You saw her bare feet in the snow. You have kids, Decker." Decker looked down at his boots. "2 boys. If someone tied your wife to a post and left your boys to freeze," Sam asked, his voice low and dangerous, "what would you do to the man who did it?" Decker didn't answer. The silence stretched out, heavy and judging. "Thomas Garrett is in town," Sam said. "The lawyer from Denver. He's at the boarding house. You go talk to him. You tell him the truth. Wade will kill me." "Wade is going to prison," Sam said, "or he's going into the ground. But he isn't walking out of this. You decide which side of the bars you want to be on." Sam watched Decker walk away into the dark. He didn't know if the man would go to the lawyer or go back to Wade. He just knew that sometimes you have to bet on the scant remains of a man's conscience. Friday morning. The courthouse in Coldwater Creek was packed. It smelled of wet wool, tobacco, and anticipation. Judge Alderman was a circuit judge, a man from the city who didn't know the local politics, which was their only hope. He sat behind the bench, looking bored. Wade's lawyer stood up first. He was smooth. He painted a picture of a grieving family trying to protect a mentally unstable woman. He produced affidavits. He produced the doctor's report. He produced a diary allegedly written by Martha's late husband, detailing her hysteria. It was damning. From the back of the room, Sam saw the townspeople nodding. It was a good story. It was comfortable. It meant they didn't have to do anything. Then Thomas Garrett stood up. "Your Honor," Garrett said, "we can debate mental states all day, but I would like to focus on physical evidence." He called Martha to the stand. She walked up, her head high. She didn't look at Wade. She looked at the judge. "Mrs. Briggs," Garrett asked, "why did you leave the house on Tuesday night?" "I didn't leave," she said. "I was taken." "By whom?" "Roy Finch and Mr. Decker." "And what did they do?" "They took me to the north fence. They tied me to a post. They took my coat." Wade's lawyer jumped up. "Objection. This is a fabrication, a delusion of her condition." "Your Honor," Garrett said calmly, "I call Mr. Decker to the stand." The room went silent. Wade Briggs turned around in his chair. His face lost its color. He looked at the door. Decker walked in. He looked tired. He looked terrified. But he walked to the stand. He sat down. He swore on the Bible. "Mr. Decker," Garrett asked, "did you tie Martha Briggs to a fence post?" Decker looked at Wade. He saw the threat in Wade's eyes. Then he looked at Martha. He saw the scars on her wrists. "Yes," Decker said. The courtroom erupted. The judge banged his gavel. "Order. Continue." "Why did you do it?" Garrett asked. "Wade told us to," Decker said, his voice shaking. He said if she froze to death it would look like an accident. He said he needed the girl for the timber rights. He said Mrs. Briggs was in the way." Wade leaped to his feet. "He's lying. He's a drunk. I fired him last week. Sit down, Mr. Briggs," the judge roared. Garrett wasn't done. "I have one more witness, Your Honor. Reverend Holt." The town's minister walked up. He was a man who had baptized Wade. He was a pillar of the community. "Reverend," Garrett said, "did you know about the abuse in the Briggs household?" The Reverend looked at his hands. "I suspected. Did you do anything?" "No," the Reverend whispered. "Harold Briggs was a powerful man. Wade is a powerful man. I looked the other way." "And why are you speaking now?" "Because," the Reverend said, looking at Sam Cole in the back of the room, "because a stranger did the job that a neighbor should have done. And I cannot live with that shame any longer." The judge looked at Wade. He looked at the evidence. He looked at the rope burns on Martha's wrists. "Petition denied," the judge said, his voice cutting through the noise. "In fact, Sheriff Calhoun, I want you to take Mr. Briggs into custody. I am referring this matter to the territorial prosecutor for charges of attempted murder and conspiracy." Sheriff Calhoun hesitated. He looked at Wade. He looked at the judge. He realized the wind had changed. He pulled out his handcuffs. The sun was setting as they walked out of the courthouse. The air was cold, but it felt clean. Martha stood on the steps, holding Lily. She took a deep breath, the first real breath she had taken in years. Sam was waiting by the wagon. He didn't smile. He just nodded. "It's over," Martha said. "The danger is over," Sam corrected. "Now the work starts." "What work?" "Living," he said. "It's harder than it looks." Martha walked down the steps. She stopped in front of him. "You saved us. You didn't even know us, and you saved us." "I knew enough," Sam said. "Why?" she asked. "Why risk everything for a stranger?" Sam looked at the mountains, purple in the distance. He thought about the silence of his cabin. He thought about the 6 years he had spent trying to convince himself he didn't need anyone. "Because," Sam said quietly, "I was tired of watching." They got into the wagon. Lily fell asleep between them, warm and safe. They didn't know exactly what the future held. They knew there would be a trial. They knew the town would talk. They knew it wouldn't be easy. But as they rode out of town, leaving the shadows of Coldwater Creek behind them, Sam Cole felt something he hadn't felt in a long time. He felt the cold on his face, but for the first time in years, he didn't feel it in his soul. It's easy to look away. It's the safest thing in the world to mind your own business. But the difference between a tragedy and a miracle usually comes down to one person who decides to stop looking away. If this story stayed with you, hit that like button. It helps get this message out to more people. And if you want more stories about justice, survival, and the grit it takes to do the right thing, subscribe to the channel. I'm curious, what would you have done if you were Decker? Would you have risked your life to tell the truth, or would you have kept your head down? Let me know in the comments below. Thanks for watching. Stay safe out there.